Hi everyone, and welcome back to Felsbrunn. This is Tuplex, and since the last episode, I just realized I made a couple of minor errors. First of all, I forgot to put fuel in the harvester. As you remember, I was resetting the harvester to try to figure out why it wasn't attaching. And when you reset a vehicle now, in FS19, you lose, looks like most of the fuel that was in it. And again, I'm not positive, but I'm fairly sure that they did that as a way to discourage people from just resetting the vehicle whenever they want to go somewhere close to the shop, which was a common tactic in previous versions of the game to prevent having to spend a lot of time driving around the map. And I think it's, let me raise the header there. I think it's reasonable that there be a penalty for that. So what I'm going to do now is drive over to the gas station and refuel this thing so that we don't run out in the middle of the field. I probably should have left the header in the field now that I think of it. But we'll be okay. Not too much traffic here. And speaking of traffic, unfortunately, the traffic in this version of the game is terribly unintelligent as it was in previous versions. I think it's the way that they designed the game. The traffic moves along a predetermined track. And I think to prevent problems arising from collisions, they make it so that all the vehicle traffic is essentially an immovable object. So you can collide with a car with your, 15, 20,000 pound harvester, and your harvester will bounce right off of it instead of the other way around. All right, let me see if I can refill here. Yeah, of course. The keys are all different. There we go. Yeah, and I've been messing with my controls. I was having a few issues with my controls last time. And when I reloaded the game, actually, after I quit from the last episode, I reloaded and all the bindings that I had changed before disappeared. So it seems like there are some issues with the game remembering the control settings in between sessions, which is going to be frustrating. But until they get that worked out, I'm not going to spend too much time remapping my controls because I don't want to have to do it every single time. So I'll just do the best that I can, but I may have to pull up my help menu and go to the keyboard from time to time when things aren't working the way that I expect. Speaking of that, let me see if I can detach now with my side panel. Yeah, now I can. All right, so I may have messed it up when I was trying to change the bindings before. Anyway, I'll continue messing with it. Hopefully it won't have too much effect on the gameplay. All right, so I mentioned that I made what I thought could have been two mistakes. The other one is that I realized that Rosomash, if I'm not mistaken, is made in Russia. And this brand was introduced along with the Sosnovka map in the previous versions of the game, where it made sense being in Eastern Europe. I don't know how realistic, I don't know where Felsbrunn is. I think it's a fictional town, but, it sounds like it could be in Germany or Austria or something like that. And if that's the case, it might not be too realistic to have a Russian-made combine in that part of the world. I don't know. I'm not a real farmer, or I'm not a farmer in real life, so I do the best I can with what I've got, but it may not always be totally realistic. All right, so I'm going to put my hired worker back on there. Great. And we're full of fuel. While I'm over here, we may as well get this unloaded again. It's about half full. And then we can leave it unattended for a while and let it do its thing. Okay, my cruise control setting is still as it was before. So let's see if we can do this completely in cab. We need to get the tipper approximately lined up with the header. There we go. Up, and I maxed out my cruise control again. God. Okay. Sorry about that. Try to get out of the tipper. Oh, I think I know what happened. I think I double tapped my cruise control button. And when you double tap it, it just goes to maximum speed. I think that's why I started to take off. So, sorry about it. Sorry about that. I'm still getting used to some of these things. And before 19 was released, I went quite a long time without playing Farming Simulator at all. So I'm getting myself reacquainted with the game a bit. Okay. So while that's going, let's go ahead and buy our second tractor. Actually, let's look at our money situation first. We've got $282,000. I haven't, because I didn't buy a house, I haven't had to borrow any additional money yet. Now, normally, when you start the game, you can borrow up to $500,000. But what happens as you start to buy more land and more structures, your loan limit increases. So we should be able to borrow more than $500,000 at this point. But I'm going to try to keep the loan as low as we can because, as it is now, we're already going to be paying probably at least $1,000, $1,500 a day just on interest. So I want to try to keep the interest costs as low as possible. All right, so let's get a second tractor. Now, my thoughts were to get a smaller one as the second tractor so we can use the case for plowing and so forth. And what we still need to buy is we need a seeder. We're going to need a plow, a cultivator. We're going to need a sprayer, a weeder. So why don't I buy the tools first? Or let's look at the tools first and see if we can come up with a budget here. Now, this combination with the Kuhn, that's 4 meters wide. And then you need the seed tank to go on the front. But it doesn't fertilize. And I would like something that fertilizes while it's planting. So the smallest one that will do that is this AgroMash. That's only 3 meters wide, though. On a field like 3, that's going to take a long time to do the job. This one is 3.6. It's got a fairly small tank, though. That's $39,000. This one I really like. It's 6 meters wide, but it doesn't fertilize. Although, if I could afford this one, I might be willing to live with having to make another pass with fertilizer just to get the extra width. It's also fairly expensive, and I think all the other ones are. Yeah, all the others are even more expensive. Right, so 3.6. Between these two, I think I would probably go with this one, just because it has a much larger tank. This one, I think, might run out of seed or fertilizer before it finishes that field. Yeah, I don't want to spend 76 grand yet, so let's just get this one. Okay, so we'll buy that one. That takes 180 horsepower, so we need to make sure at least one of our tractors has somewhere around 180, and the case does. The case that we bought has 170, and we can upgrade it to give it a little more power as well. All right, so let's look for a plow. Again, this one 180, but rather narrow. Now the other option, instead of these plows, which will take a long time to get the job done, we could use a subsoiler. These are a little bit wider. Here's one that's 4 meters wide, and that takes 140 horsepower. The Kuhn is also 4 meters wide, takes less power, and I think this one can be used with some of their other pieces of equipment. And then we've got these Cultiplows, which require a much bigger tractor. So I think we'll get this 4 meter combi plow here. That one will allow us to do it a little more quickly. What's this one? That one takes a lot of power. This one can put down. This one can put down fertilizer as well. So this one will plow, cultivate, and spread fertilizer. Oh, but that's 240. Okay, we'll go with this one. Okay, for cultivators, now our seeder, can seed directly, so we can use this instead of a cultivator, or if we can use this without using a cultivator first. Some of the seeders don't do that. Many of them require you to cultivate first. But I think we should get a cultivator anyway. So let's see what we can get for something around 180 horsepower. All right, that's too big. That's 3.7. That's 3. That's 3. That's 400. Okay. Yeah, so this one can seed as well. It's 3.7 wide. What else can we do? I think a power harrow will do essentially the same thing, or at least it functions as a cultivator in the game. It doesn't actually do the same thing as a cultivator. This one uses less power. That's 4 horsepower, or 4 meters wide. And that can be used with, okay, yeah, and this can be used with some of the other modular equipment that goes with it. I think I'll just get this one. Okay, that takes 120 horse, so we're good there. All right, let's take a look at what we've got. So I've got my tractor and tipper. We've got the harvester. We can cultivate, plow, and put down seeds. So that means we also need a sprayer. So I'm going to get this Mega 2200. It's pretty similar to this Kuhn, but this holds 2200 liters versus 1300 on the Kuhn. With the Kuhn, you can add another tank, but then you end up spending more money for the tank plus the sprayer. And the Hardy has a little bit more width to it, so we'll get that one. That's for putting down fertilizer, and that'll also allow us to put down herbicide. Okay, I'm going to hold off on the weeder until we actually need one. Okay, so I still have, looks like my harvester's stopped, so let's go empty that guy out. So we still have 190 grand. We'll want to make sure that we keep some in reserve so that we have money to buy seed and fertilizer and things like that. But we're not doing too bad. I think not buying the house is a pretty good strategy. We'll just sleep in our tractors for a while. No problem. Okay. Let's see how we're doing there. Okay. So now that we have the tools, let's go over to the shop and take a look at what we've got. We'll just teleport over there, since this actually takes place far in the future where we have a teleportation belt. Okay, so got all that stuff. You know what? Maybe I could have bought the bigger seeder. Nah, but it still doesn't fertilize. So we would end up still almost taking the same amount of time to get the field done because we'd have to make 2 passes. So this is fine. But now since I still got some money, maybe I'll get a bigger tractor. Maybe instead of a small one, I'll get something a bit larger. Yeah, let's get another medium tractor. Now here's the thing. For the medium tractor, I want to make sure that we can use narrow tires for spraying. I think we saw that the case will do narrow tires too. Yeah, it does. But I also want to be able to put on a front loader. So I want something that'll take a front loader. So the T6 could do the job. The Case Maxim could do the job. I wouldn't mind having a Case Puma, but that wouldn't leave us with much money in the bank. What about this John Deere? I've never had a John Deere before. Okay, this does not have a 3-point linkage on the front, although you can get it with an integrated weight. Okay, what about engine? We start with 142, and we can go up to 164. And, okay, it does do narrow tires. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I'll keep standard wheels on it for now. I'll leave it at 140. Well, let's see. Yeah. Let's take a look at what else we have. Yeah, the next John Deere up is a little bit too much. Was there a small John Deere? No. No, this other case could work. What about this New Holland? Let's see what we can do there. All right, this will go up to 175 horsepower, which means that this could run all the same equipment as the other tractor could. It has a 3-point linkage on front, so we could use it with a mower or something later. I'm pretty sure this will do narrow tires as well. And front loader. I think we'll go with the New Holland. It seems like a better deal. 128 grand. Okay, and then finally, I think I will get a front weight to throw on there. Which size? The 650. That one might be, yeah, I think the 650 will do. Okay. I think we're done buying equipment now. Let's see how our harvester's doing. It's still sitting there. Am I blocking it? Okay. I've seen that happen before where you have to like unhire the worker and then rehire it again to get the combine moving. We're about 35-40% done with that field. Right, and we've got, let's see how much grain I've got in here. All right, so I've got close to 8,000. And we put 7,000 in there, so that's what, 15. So we might end up with, say, 40,000 liters by the time we're done. And if we get around 500 per 30,000 or per 1,000 liters, that's 500. Yeah, so we might get about 20 grand or so from harvesting this field. It doesn't sound like an awful lot. But I guess we'll take what we can get. All right, so let's look at the harvesting state of field, or the fertilizer state of field 20. We've got one stage. So what we can do is we'll cultivate the field to turn under the sugar beets that we don't want. And when that's done, I will put down some seed on top of it, and we'll add fertilizer at the same time. All right, cool. It's working now. At least I got that figured out. All right, so we'll pick up our little cultivator here. We don't need to plow just yet. Now, one disadvantage of the subsoiler, using a subsoiler instead of a plow, is you can't use a subsoiler to expand your fields. So if we ever decide to expand field 20, which I think would be a good idea at some point, we'll have to get an actual moldboard plow. Oh, you know what? I think this one has a higher top speed than the case as well. So this would probably be a better tractor to use for carting. So why don't we swap? All right, I'm going to use this cultivator right away, so I'll just park it here. Let's lower it and then detach. And then let's take this over to field 3 and grab the tipper, and then we'll bring the case over here to do the field work. Because I think the case only went 40, and this one will go 53. So especially when it, I think I left my blinker on. So when it comes time to start selling our grain, we'll definitely want to use this one instead. Okay, so let's get that started, and then we'll come back over. Actually, I heard my harvester beeping. I think it's ready to get emptied out again. It's a rather demanding piece of equipment. All right, hopefully the track IR is working okay for you guys. You should know, though, that I usually record at least a couple episodes in advance of publication. So if you've already commented that you hate it, I haven't seen your comment yet. But I usually read all the comments as soon as, or almost as soon as they're posted. So if you post a comment, I'll see it very quickly, and I'll respond to it in the next episode that I record. I did turn down the volume a little bit, but it still feels a little bit loud to me. I'll probably turn it down a bit more for the next episode. All right, so let's go get this emptied. We'll put this in the silo. Now, because of the size of our tipper here, you know, we'll obviously have to make several trips to sell all this. And the way this works in the game is that whenever you sell, it affects the price. You know, you sell something, you increase the supply, so the price starts to go down. So we might not... Let's see. Oh, crud. Okay, I'm just going to have to use the keyboard. So we might not be able to sell it all at once, right? We might have to do it in stages. Sell 1 or 2 loads and then wait a while for the prices to go back up again and then sell the rest. Otherwise, we could lose a lot of income. There we go. Got all the flashing lights turned off. This will get better once I get my controls sorted, I promise. Until then, I'm just going to avoid using turn signals. I mentioned before how the traffic is, you know, the AI that controls the traffic is not very good. So whether you use turn signals or not, the cars will just turn right in front of you, no matter how fast you're going. So turn signals are really just for the sake of realism. All right, so I'm going to park here. And if I've got this in the right place, then the harvester will automatically unload when it gets over here. All right, so let's get over there and start cultivating field 20. Yeah, this one looks like it's topping out at 43 kph, so the other one's about 10 kph faster. And I think we'll be okay without a front weight for using that small cultivator. Now, the game would allow us to use the seeder and cultivate the sugar beets and seed and lay down fertilizer all at once. So if you're not terribly concerned with realism and you just want to get the job done, that is certainly a viable option. But I like to try to play at least somewhat realistically, so I'm not going to do that. I wonder if I can see. Yeah, we should be able to see from here whether my harvester is going to pick up or not, or unload. All right, so let's lower this, and we'll try to do some of this field work unaided. See if I can manage a straight line at least most of the time. Okay, looks like it's... Yeah, cool. Looks like I got it in the right spot. That was not too bad at all. Whoops. Okay, rather pleased with myself about that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip over a little ways. And I'll do another pass here. And rather than doing each pass directly next to the last one, I'll kind of go in long ovals through the field, and that'll make it quicker to turn this thing around. I won't have to do a 3-point turn to get the tractor turned around for the next row. You'll see what I mean here in a second. Okay, that one wasn't terribly straight, but it wasn't bad either. And if I miss any big bits, we'll go back and fix it up later when we're done. Okay, so when I get done with this row, then I'll go and I'll make another row to the right of the one that I just made. See how we're doing. Yeah, we're doing pretty good. Now, there aren't a lot of mods released yet, but usually when I'm doing field work myself, at least in 17, I would normally use a GPS mod. What's helping me here with the sugar beets is that they're in neat little rows themselves, so I can just kind of keep the center of my hood following one line of the crop, and that helps me keep it relatively straight. If this was like wheat or something, I would not be doing nearly as well as I'm doing now. It's also a little bit easier with a 3-meter implement like this one because the tool itself is approximately the same width as the tractor, so that makes it a little bit easier to estimate where you are. Okay, let's go see how our harvester's doing. Oh my god. I must have been blocking it. Okay, so we'll try to park it a little farther away this time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the harvester to go on the next row, and then I'll park it here at the end, just like I did the last time. So that'll let the harvester run unattended for a little bit longer so that we can work on the field instead. I like to use hired workers quite a bit. But in this particular case, like if I've got hired workers going and I don't really have anything else to do myself, then I'll do field work. Otherwise, it would be kind of a waste of my money to be just sitting there watching the tractors go back and forth with hired workers and twiddling my thumbs. So okay, and I've got maybe another row, possibly 2 over here on this side, and then when this row is completely gone, yeah, I might be able to get this in one pass. When this one is completely gone, then I'll just start a new one further down. That's a bummer. Okay, this is still going to be 2 passes. Let me move this over a bit. There we go. All right, this is a fairly small field, so it won't take us long to get through it, even with a fairly small implement like this one. Now for field 13, jeez. These button assignments are reversed from how they were in FS17. That's why I'm keep disconnecting when I want to lower it. And I'm sorry that my track IR keeps getting confused like that. Let's just do top-down view for a while. Okay. I didn't want to guess wrong again. I got lucky that time. Here comes the harvester again. Hopefully it'll start after it unloads, if I've given it enough room. Or it could be that it just doesn't like having an unintended tractor sitting next to it. I've noticed that it'll stop, or that I've noticed that traffic on the road next to the field will stop if the harvester's there, even if there's no chance of a collision. It'll just wait for the harvester to pass. So there could be an issue with the worker AI. Let's get this over a little bit. There we go. Okay, good. I left enough room that time. I could see it heading back down the field. All right, so I'll do one more pass here, and then I think we'll call it an episode. I'll finish up this field between now and the next episode, and then we'll decide what we want to plant here. Actually, we need to decide what to plant in the big field as well. I think I'll probably do, I'll do like wheat or barley in this field, and then I think I'll do something like soybeans or canola in the large field. I find that soybeans and canola generally, I don't know, they seem to make more money in the game for me. I think, every crop, you've noticed that the price for each crop is different, but the density of the crops are all different too. So even though, for example, wheat is less expensive than canola, you get a lot less volume of canola off of the same field than you do with wheat. So you have to kind of take that into consideration. So making the crop with the highest price per 1,000 liters is not always going to get you the most income. Potatoes and sugar beets, for example, will give you tons and tons of material from a small field, but the price is very low. Whereas canola is fairly low volume. You could fill up one tipper from a fairly good sized field, but you get a lot more money per unit volume from the canola. So there was a time when I used to check the prices and run the calculations based on the sizes of my fields and all that kind of stuff, but I don't bother with that now. I just try to do a rotation. I try not to plant the same crop twice in a row in the same field. I think that generally tracks with how real farmers work as well. They have to rotate the crops to prevent depletion of any particular nutrient from the soil. So I think, after sugar beets, I think we could do a grain. And after a grain, we can do canola or soybeans. No, I'm not planning to do root crops again, so I don't think I'll plant soybean. I don't think I'll plant sugar beets or potatoes unless we decide to farm pigs at some point, just because, as I mentioned before, they require special equipment to harvest and to plant. So you can end up spending a lot of money on equipment. And unless you're really going to go on a large scale, then it's going to take a long time to recoup your investment. Okay, I see the pipe out on my harvester, which means it's ready to be emptied. So I'll just put a worker on this guy to continue this work. Yeah, he stopped. And then we'll go get that emptied out. Let's see. Looks like we're about halfway done with the field now. I'm pretty happy with the yield that we're getting. We're getting quite a lot of material from here. Okay, well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.